So eyebrows and eyelashes are going to be a really definitive thing of the look of your character, and I want to show you a quick way that we can do both. So here I have my character, and what we're actually going to do to make our eyebrows and eyelashes is that Re-Topology step. So I'm going to go to Mesh, and let's just make the eyebrows first, because I think they're fun and relatively simple. Didn't make it in the center because my object wasn't in the center of my little pivot, but that's okay. So as just like we did when we were working on our Re-Topology, I'm going to move it out of the way. There it is. Put it too far back. Get it closer towards the character, like so. Turn on my snapping. Make sure I'm on this edit mode. And we'll put in a little eyebrow, like so. On my modifiers, I don't need to do the see-through because I'm not retopologizing. This is going to be final geometry. What I do want to do is I want to shrink wrap it because I want to make sure it's going to sit on the head itself. I like setting it to project, of course, because that gives me a lot more depending on the shape. And then what I want to do is add a subdivision surface, which is going to sort of round things out once. And then I add a solidify modifier, which I set to 0, so it's right in the middle. So the thickness is going to go pretty evenly, left in and out. Because if I go all the way out, sometimes I'll get a gap like under it, and I don't want that. So I might set it to just right at 0, and then I can control my thickness with this. Maybe bump it out a little bit. And then I do one more subdivision surface modifier on after that, and I shade it smooth. Doesn't look like a lot now, but if we use the same techniques and we try to get away with the fewest number of edges possible, we can see it's pretty quick to put in a decent looking eyebrow with just a few edges, and it's going to do a good job of snapping to the surface. And so I can create a lot of, like, you know, an arched, you know, maybe even head it in this highlight so I can see it a little bit better. And anywhere I want more definition, I just add more to it. And then I can say add mirror, and I make sure, since I did it in the center already, that's great. If yours isn't in the center, we can always mirror it around the character, the object. And so we can change up, you know, how thick the eyebrow is on the surface, and we can change the overall thinness of it by just pushing the points closer together if they have really thin eyebrows. And if I have a section, like sometimes I see on an eyebrow, there's like a really sharp kind of part, I can put a crease in it, and we can see it's going to help define this part of the eyebrow a little bit more, depending on your style. So it's this is a pretty good way of doing that. And we're going to use the same kind of technique. I'm just going to take this object, I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to use the same technique to do the eyelashes. So I'm going to delete most of this stuff in here, X vertices. So I just have these two now. Extrude those out. And we're going to do something similar for, like we did with Re-Topology. Let's turn off really quick this subdivision so we keep it nice and flat. I'm going to turn off this subdivision too, because I want to keep this, for now, really thin and really simple. And let's set my solidify down a little bit. And now at E, let's make sure I'm on edge and face select, or edge and vert select. E, and move this down. E, and then right about here is where I kind of like to do the last little bit. And I'm going to turn off my, apply my shrink wrap. Let's go into object mode so I can apply the shrink wrap. I'm going to turn off my snapping so that I can bring it off the surface a little bit for this last little piece. Now, of course, we see that my solidify is really headed out, and so I want to push it just out and give it enough thickness. And now let's turn on my subdivision like we did before. And this subdivision is pretty good. And what I want to do is take all my outside faces. So I can alt and double click and add a crease to all of this. And you see it gives me some of those sharper edges that I want. And it's a really, I think, a really fun way of making, and if I want it really pointy, I suppose I can always turn this into a try. Won't be the end of the world. And now I'm gonna, without the snapping, I'm just sort of fitting it in so it sets the shape. And so especially if you have a character with like really exaggerated lashes or something like that, this is a way of doing it. Now, another way you might do lashes, especially like you're doing bottom lashes, is something similar to this, like just taking a simple mesh. Let's take just like a regular cylinder. Give it 8 sides is more than enough, maybe even too many, but I think this would be fine. And I don't need anything. Let's do, I don't think I want anything in here. And then I'm going to turn this into with just enough shapes to make this work. M at center. M at center. And I'm sort of using S to scale in and shape this like a small lash kind of shape. Shaded smooth. Let's say A and G to move it up. Get my pivot, maybe right about down here. G. Let's really scale the sucker down. And I can do, just like, I can just do this manually if I want with my eyelashes. Just pick out a small shape like so. And then go into my sculpt and use my G to sort of just yank and pull it around. To form it into an eyelash shape. And here. Turning into a curve. And then I can scale it and I can rotate it. And then do that little, just duplicate, rotate, scale, duplicate, rotate, until I feel like I have enough to define. Like, this is pretty exaggerated, but again, character I'm going for right now is a little bit more stylized. And since I have that pivot still down here, let's turn off the align rotation of target because I want it to keep its rotation. I can just grab this and it's going to put whatever the origin point is right on top of it. So it makes it nice and easy for me to just Shift-D, hold Control, Shift-D, hold Control, and then I can rotate it and move it around to my heart's content. This is a geometry way of doing some like little lower lashes. So, I mean, different techniques, different approaches, but all these things are going to help us define who are characters and what they look like. And I mean, what I just did here, I could do for the upper lids or anything like that. So take some time, put some stuff together. I mean, feel free. If your character's got big hoop earrings, add those, or a nose piercing, or any other details you feel like would help express who this character is. And then in the next series, we're going to build out the clothing, and we're going to use the geometry we already made to build the clothing of our character. It's going to come together a lot quicker than you think. So looking forward to seeing what everyone comes up with. I'll see you in the next one.